go. See, it's having trouble even here, but it should just fast forward because there's nothing holding the supply reel. If I try another one. And if we take off the left pinch roller, nothing, or not much. The right one, not much. Now if we take off both, so it fast forwards really freely. That's fine. Whoops, I take it back. Take it back. I took this off now and gave it a really good clean, roughed it up a little bit to make sure that the clutch would work, and as you can see there's not enough torque. It's split into two sections. There's the back of the hub and the front, and then there's the actual hub itself. When you're fast forwarding, this idler wheel hits the front one there. You need a tape in it, like that. It hits that front one and provides quite a lot of torque. When you press play, it goes up the back and hits the back of the other clutch. There's two clutches in there, and here I can see that the hub is actually rotating at the back, but this is stopped when I grab it. Do that again. And it feels like it should be enough torque to pull the tape through, but it's obviously not. So what do I do? Somehow I have to make that clutch be more grippy. How this works is that there's two felt pads in between these two plastic clutches, I guess, and as I say, this one is for the fast forwarding and the rear one is on the back pad clutch for the just play. So I need to somehow strengthen that. I will now show you what's in them. This is pretty finicky and lots of little tiny bits. I have to be very careful here. Right. Okay, we're going to pull apart this hub again, which is a bit of a shame. I've taken off the plate there and the plate that goes down in there, and also this top cassette cover, just to make life a little bit easier for me. Okay, now how I discovered is that the first thing to do is to clip off the little black cover. It just pulls off, maybe just the fingers might even do. Yep, so it's just a little tiny cover that clips on. Next is a little tiny washer. On the left hand side there's a little circlip, very tiny. On this side it's not a circlip, it's a bit of fibre, which, so I suspect that it's been taken off before, and it sits in a little tiny groove on the end there of the spindle. So I just try to take it off as as cleanly as I possibly can. First time I took it off, it's spat over onto the floor. I spent about 10 minutes trying to find it. So that's it there. We'll go through these in a minute. And then that just pulls out, except there's the rubber belt that goes to the speed sensor in behind here, up the top, in between, down in there, for sensing when the tape is moving or not. Okay, so right here we have it. Now, these things just pull apart. I won't bother taking the front section off because, well, that's for the fast forward, and that's a fairly stiff clutch mechanism. There's a, I'll see if I can show you, there's a clutch in the middle, but I'll just take off the back because that's the bit that's important. It just pulls off. Like that, and the clutch, just that's it there, that's all it is. There's a felt pad there, and that's the clutch that grips onto the idler wheel, and as the idler wheel grabs that, it slips on that clutch, and it's just not enough grippiness. It really needs to be a similar force to what the fast forward is. And yeah, it's not much at all. And the spring they use is actually quite a bit weaker. So that goes there and pushes. Yeah, it's very hard to see. Right, there's the front, there's the felt clutch pad, there's your clutch plate, goes on there, and it's held on by a spring which is held in the back by this little pulley which goes onto the movement optical sensor. But there's only this spring, that's it. And it doesn't appear to be enough. So what do we do? What do we do? How can I make that really grip that? The clutch plate, well, let's start with the pressure plate is felt. I've cleaned it really hard with alcohol, and it's sort of there. If there was enough spring pressure, I think it'd work, but there's just not enough spring pressure. So what do we do? Well, this pressure plate has grooves in it that go round in circles, so there's no grooves in a radial fashion, and that's probably fair enough because by having the grooves this way it means it won't wear it out but provide extra surface area when it grips going around. But if they were radial like that, it would really rough up the pressure plate and cause it to erode. So that's okay. We just don't have enough pressure, and I can tell you if I put a lot of pressure there, it's probably okay, but the amount of pressure put on by this spring is just, it's just minuscule. So what do we do? Now, I actually did extend this by a millimetre. It was It was 14.8 millimeters long, like that. Always get the distance wrong here. This spring was 14.8 millimeters, and I did sort of pull it out and made it 15.8, but I didn't want to go too far. But it turns out that well, it's just not enough. Okay, and I think what I'll do is I'll try and find another spring that I can put in there as well. I just have to. I can't see any other way around it. I played around with the torque settings quite a lot, and the newer spring that I put in, the take-up hub, in the end I took it back out and put the original spring back in. I stretched it another millimetre or so, and that helped a little bit. But basically I found that it wasn't such a huge problem, although naturally it had some effect. So after cleaning the hubs as much as I could and so on, and ensuring they're all doing their job with the right amount of drag, etc., I moved on, and eventually I discovered that the actual real motor itself was misbehaving, and the next video I may show what I did with that. And once that was reinstalled and properly aligned with the belt, etc., it seemed to work quite well. However, it wasn't perfect. The textbook or manual says that the playback torque should be 50 to 100 grams centimetre. Now I now have a torque cassette, and what I found was that the playback torque from the take-up hub was 50, so it's at the bottom end of the playback torque, and there's nothing really more that I can do to make that more. I found that with 50 grams centimetre of playback torque that it was sufficient. Yes, it would be nice to have more, but I wasn't game to replace the take-up hub spring with a stronger spring, since it seemed to adequately work with the original spring in, stretched just a little bit. Now the back torque on the supply hub is meant to be 7 to 13 grams centimetre, and my torque cassette says that it's 7, once again at the minimum of the range. Now fortunately with the back end torque, it's not quite as important. In fact, having only 7 grams centimetre means that it's not pulling on the or dragging the tape as much as it possibly could. So that's all right. So that's how it is. And the two troublesome cassettes that I have, they do seem to play okay now. So after repairing the motor and cleaning all the hubs and wheels and rubber tyres and so on to the best of my ability, I've left it at that. As I previously mentioned, the only real change I made was the spring for the idler wheel, which I did actually shorten to make it work better, and that certainly made the difference. That's about it, and I move on.